Good evening, everybody. Me and my colleague Jyotsna are here to present a very important and interesting study on food wastage behavior in Singapore. This study is on food wastage with specific reference to Singapore. We represent SP Jain School of Global Management with campuses in Dubai, Singapore and Sydney, where we make an effort to groom the students to get a global perspective and equip them with skills in decision making. It is said about 4 billion tons of food is produced every year and nearly 1/3 of it goes a waste. It is estimated that 1.3 billion tons of food doesn't reach any stomach. Let's take a look at Singapore in particular. The total waste generated has grown in the past 12 years by about 56%. Fortunately, the waste recycled has increased at a greater pace, that is 133%, but sadly almost 3 million tons of waste is disposed without recycling. Let us look at the details as they relate to food wastage in Singapore. In the year 2011, 675,000 tons of food waste is generated and only 10% of it, approximately 69,700 or 10% is recycled. So, 90% of the food that is wasted is not being recycled. Research from the past indicates that food wastage takes place for several reasons. There is some food that is wasted which is avoidable, some that can be possibly avoided, and there is some that cannot be avoided at all. It appears that people waste a little bit every day, throwing away small quantities, at times not realizing that it does add up to a big volume over a period of time. Wastage also appears to be because there is a plethora of choice, people tempted to try out different items, different brands, and they also falling prey to aggressive marketing and promotion such as discounts, coupons and price offers. There is of course wastage also due to breakage, spillage and package failures. I now invite my colleague Jyotsna to talk about the research methodology that we have engaged in.
Research was conducted in two phases, qualitative as well as quantitative. I will take you through the quantitative phase. A sample size of 158 respondents were administered a questionnaire. The mode used was offline as well as online, and thus a t-test was performed which failed, indicating that there was no difference in the variance between online and offline across all the continuous variables. Thus, a common analysis was formed on the total respondent base of 158. Next, a multiple discriminant analysis was performed. This was a challenging task because we were not able to identify which categorical or continuous variable would be used which can be most discriminating in nature. Several demographic variables like age, income level, housing types, etc. were identified, yet the discriminant analysis for these variables failed. Finally, a categorical variable, how much effort do you take to minimize the uneaten food you throw away, was chosen. This variable was derived from an interesting interpretive style of literature, a research performed by D. Coverley and the team. The scale identified was from a great deal to not at all, as shown in the slide. A great deal and fair amount were grouped as one categorical variable, and this group was inclined to take an effort to minimize waste, while all the other scales were used to formulate a group which was not inclined to take an effort to minimize waste. Our analysis indicated that the two most discriminating variables were food thrown away bothers you or not, and thinking about the cost of food thrown away bothers you or not. Close third and fourth variables were throwing away fruits and vegetables and saved leftover meals. I will now invite Dr. Grandi again for sharing the implications.
The study has implications for all key stakeholders, whether it be government, NGO, food marketers, or restaurant or food service providers. For government, they need to have policy and framework in place, encourage collection so we can convert into compost. They can have policies for builders requiring segregation, so recyclable waste doesn't get mixed with non-food waste. NGOs can identify those that tend to waste, encourage them not to waste as much, collect those that are being wasted, and perhaps redistribute them to people that need those materials. Food marketers need to be more responsible in what they market, how they pack, the information they provide, and the restaurant operators need to be more conscious. They need to perhaps serve smaller portions, requiring them to pay as they eat, provide signage and perhaps information on the table mats on how one should engage in responsible eating habits. We have noticed that Singapore as a city state can be broken down into several zones for the purpose of collection, and we present here a flow chart on how waste can be managed. It is possible to assess each zone in terms of the type of waste, recyclability of waste, quantum of waste, and frequency of waste that is produced. We can use different kinds of methods that have been suggested in the past research for tracking this. It could be by having the people use a diary, or we can infer maybe the plates in the restaurants, or it could be by excavation method, that is examining the garbage that is thrown out. So, once we know what kind of a waste and whether it is originated by a household or from a restaurant operator or a commercial entity, we can prioritize the zones in terms of those that need attention. We need to establish centers for collecting waste on the ones that need immediate attention, and accordingly handle process so that we can put it to proper use, either giving it to those that need it or generate power or convert it into compost. We need to take both short term and long term measures. What you mentioned is short term, and in the long term it is important that all the stakeholders identify the profiles of the people, communicate and reach out to them both online and offline, and engage them in more responsible consumption, so that we can minimize the waste, and whatever be the waste, of course we need to pull it together and either redistribute it, convert it into power, or convert it into compost. I now invite Jyotsna to sum up the presentation.
Food wastage, no matter where, is a luxury no individual, company or country can afford to live with. It severely hampers the lives of many individuals and the planet in the long run. I think we all need to make a collective, engaging effort towards researching along these lines and to minimize wasteful consumption so that the undernourished can get their fair share of food. Thank you.